They apply a very thin layer of nano coating on the surface of the foam. And you will see this paper is coated by the nanoparticles, and this is not. So if you apply water, it just beats up and roll over. It doesn't really accumulate and penetrate into this paper. And we have nanochips, semiconductor in the computer science area, and this has been applied decades ago. So it's super conductive and also ultra thin. You can bend it to a very large angle without breaking it. So the definition of nano is about 1 to 100 nanometers in scale, and once everything falls into this category, into this length scale, they have very unusual properties, like physical, chemical, biological properties. This is where we can play around. And the nanoscience, actually, the nanotechnology incorporates the nanoscale science, engineering, and tech, and also involve a lot of different areas as well. So this is all the experiments or the research area in my lab as well. So where do we learn about nanotechnology from? Anybody know about this? Like probably 1 or 2 years ago, people started to know about nano. It's from nature. It's from an animal like this. This is gecko, right? If you look at the feet of this gecko, it's a lot of wrinkled structure like this. And people take the structure on the microscope, you will see a lot of nanostructures actually zoom in as here. So this is 10 micrometers. You will see a lot of, so nanostructure in gecko's feet, and the one single spatula, this is one stellar, consists of 1,000 spatula tips, and every single tip has a lot of different small structures, even more. So this is really a nanoscale structure. So what are the benefits from this nanostructure? Gecko, it can climb on any surface, even upside down the glass, without falling down, right? So this we call super adhesiveness. And many years, probably 1 decade ago, one engineer from the Stanford University, he invented this super adhesive gloves and pants that he can wear, then he can climb on the buildings. This is super, super cool. And I think this paper has been published in Nature. This is a top science journal. So at the nanoscale, we have large surface area. We have that can provide super adhesiveness. And furthermore, so things behave completely differently, right? We can't climb on the glass using our hands. Even with regular gloves, we cannot do that. But at nanoscale, we have completely different properties. So think about this. We have a brick of gold, which is gold color, right? This is metal. But can you make this gold metal into solution? Into a real solution that people can see by eye, like this. So we call gold nanoparticles. So you break down the bulky structure of the gold into this nanoscope, and right in the middle is about 500 nanometers. If you go down, go further, go larger, it has different colors. So gold nanoparticle has been already applied in the medication area, so in many hospitals, as imaging process. So you can imagine the cancers in your body. So this different size can react to different conditions and give you different colors. So if you imagine something different color in your body by this gold nanoparticle, it can tell you the physiological condition in your body fluids. And this is because we have a phenomenon called quantum confinement. And think of this is just sugar. We have sugar cubes, we have sugar granules. Which one dissolves faster? Sugar granules, right? They dissolve your coffee almost instantly. But if you add a cube of sugar in the same amount, it doesn't really dissolve well until like 10 minutes or even more. This is almost instantly. So how can we apply these our usual properties in the food science or nutrition area? So we have, this is a list of example applications that we can apply. So we have agriculture area, we can apply new pesticides in nanoscale, so they can kill pesticide. They can kill insects very easily. And we can encapsulate flavors, and we can also use it as an anti-caking process. And anti-caking and whitening, the coloring agent in the food products is very common. So we have nano foods everywhere, but you're not aware of. So if you have basic background knowledge of this nanoscience in the food area, then you should be able to make a wise choice whenever you're buying food products. And we will talk about this. And specifically in my lab, we're interested in the nutraceuticals and nutrient delivery, and also the mineral and vitamin fortification in the different food products. So a general introduction about my lab. So we do nanoparticles from natural food. We can make them, or either we can extract from the food and utilize their properties in other products. Well, the first particle we're using is the milk protein. We call casein or whey protein. That's the two major types of proteins in the milk. And they all have the nanostructures. And this particle is right from this cup of milk. And we can extract it, and we can purify this nanoparticle. This is about 200 nanoscale in the diameter. And we can use them for a bunch of different applications in the food area. And then we have also this egg yolk. We have eggs, and we can extract and purify egg, low density lipoprotein and high density lipoprotein from this egg, which we bought from dairy bar. So our lab is just next to the dairy bar, a very convenient location, and we can buy the eggs from the dairy bar that is produced in the poultry farm here, right here in the Yukon. And we extract the nanoparticle from these eggs, and then we can apply. We have thousands of different applications of this. So nanoparticles can be prepared from food ingredients as well. So these are from natural food, and we can prepare nanoparticles using proteins, lipids, and polysaccharides. So they're all different nanostructures. So this is an illustration of different properties of nanostructure in the food science area. And so our research goal generally is to develop nanotech that is applicable in food systems to improve food quality, safety, and functionality, especially to treat chronic diseases. And to apply these nanoparticles in the food, so we have to make sure they are edible. So they're either from natural, we only use natural ingredients to prepare them. And we don't even want to use any organic solvents, any toxic compounds or chemicals or synthetic chemicals. So we do everything in the natural state, and we prepare these nanoparticles and make sure they're edible, they're safe, and also we do animal cell studies to make sure they are effective as well. So major applications of nano in the food and nutrition. This is donuts, right? We have titanium dioxide nanoparticles in the donuts, especially Dunkin' Donuts, and all different donuts, not really a specific brand. So they can be as small as 10 nanometers in diameter, and they're white powders. So every time you see the donuts with this whitish powder on the surface, the first impression of people is, okay, this is sugar, right? This is the sugar powder. Well, it also has nanoparticles in it. So if you have donuts every single day, you're consuming nanoparticles every single day. And this is the metal nanoparticle. They can accumulate in the body over time. But there's really no long-term study to evaluate their toxicity. So there's no FDA regulation so far. So they can be applied in the food product as additives. They're approved by FDA actually. But the quantity is not really defined by the FDA. So people may add more, people may add less. So we have to be careful whenever you're buying donuts. Try to avoid this whitish powder coated donuts. And they also have been applied in the other baking products, like breads. It's very common. And we have this in the cosmetic as well. So if you use cosmetic as sunscreen, especially sunscreen, we have this same type of nanoparticles. So they have whitening effects. So the sunscreen is very white in color, right? That's also is part of the contribution from nanoparticles. And they can penetrate into your skin through your dermal surface. And then we have food packaging, and this is one of the final goals we want to achieve. So we call it smart packaging. So in the future, hopefully in the very near future, we can develop this packaging that can indicate the freshness, the spoilage, the shelf life right on the package of everything. So this is blue package. It's fresh milk. Once it goes bad, like it grows bacteria, it can change the pH of the milk, and it can release some chemicals which can interact with the packaging. Then it gives different colors. So we are always wondering, after opening, we have the milk in the refrigerator, then how come we can tell it goes bad or not? Until we can smell something differently, then you definitely can tell. Or you can see the precipitates of the milk protein. Basically, they tell you the bacteria grow already. But right before that, we don't have to even open the package. We can tell from the package if we have this nano sensor on the packaging materials. And also, the major application of my lab is to use nanoparticle for encapsulation and nano delivery systems in the food area. So hopefully we can increase the absorption, and we can have a better solubility of different nutrients. So they are able to cross the small intestine better. So they have a better, we call it bioavailability. And then the nutrient delivery vehicle, I just want to give a very brief introduction about this. So, for example, if you want to travel all the way from here to Los Angeles, what you can do? You can either drive, you can either take a flight. There's no way you can walk there, right? So you have a lot of harsh conditions. You have cold weather, storm, you have hot weather, you have flus everywhere. If you walk, you have a lot of difficulties that you have to overcome. So you must need a vehicle to carry you all the way to the destination. And this is exactly the same journey we want to provide of nutrients in your body. So this is the body, right? We have this route all the way through from your mouth to the small intestine where the nutrient will be absorbed. So we have nutrient they may be very poor soluble in water, like vitamin D. So we always fortify vitamin D in the milk. So you always see vitamin D fortified in the milk, on the milk packaging labels. But vitamin D is very fast soluble. It doesn't dissolve in water. So it doesn't really absorb very well in the small intestine. And also some of the nutrients in the food can degrade easily in your stomach. And then we have some may form different forms of structure, we call isomerization. And they have limited absorption and also faster clearance before they can do anything to your body. So in your body we have stomach, we have pH variation all the way from pH 2 to pH 7 in your small intestine. Then we have a lot of enzymes that can degrade, like for example for diabetic population, they need insulin. But we never have insulin through your oral. We always inject insulin, right? Insulin is a peptide, it's a protein-based drug. So if you take insulin orally, they can easily degrade in your stomach and small intestine. So they become small peptide or amino acids even. So they lose all their functions, biological functions. That's why we can only inject through your skin. And then we have a lot of mucus layers in your small intestine, and we have cells and tight junctions that nutrient has to go through in order to enter into your bloodstream. So we have to develop a nanoscale vehicle for the nutrients, just like the car we are taking when we are traveling. So we hope we can load these nutrients to this vehicle, then it can carry these nutrients all the way to a small intestine. So if you compare this, it's a very similar situation to give a better understanding of the nutrient delivery. So I will briefly talk about research area we are doing now in the lab. Basically, we have about 5 research areas. So research 1, we do a lot of zinc proteins. So zinc is the protein from corn. Okay, and it can form nanoparticles in different conditions. And it has a water insoluble. It doesn't dissolve in water very well. And it has imbalanced amino acids. So it's normally used for feed, for animals. It doesn't really use for human consumption. It's a lot of, not byproducts, and we consider the waste. But we can turn this waste to the treasure if we can make these nanoparticles. So we apply different pH conditions to this protein nanoparticle, to these proteins we extract from corn. You will see in acidic pH, they form the film, the membrane structure. And on the pH neutral and also alkaline pH, basic pH, they form nanoparticles. It's just the same protein under different conditions, they can form different particles. And we can prepare nanoparticles from zinc protein we extract from the corn under these conditions. And then we can find a way to fix their structure so they are not going to change in your body. And then we can eat this nanoparticle, and then we can load nutrients into the nanoparticle to make them stabilized in your GI tract. So this zinc nanoparticle can be used for nanoencapsulation and also increase solubility, reduce the volatile compounds being lost. And this, so reduce the volatility and also retain flavor longer. This is another example of a chewing gum. So for the chewing gum, we have all like mint flavor, all different flavors, right? They have nanoparticles in it to retain flavor to make them last longer. So in previous years, if you have chewing gum, the flavor will be gone in a few minutes. But now you can chew the gum for like 30 minutes. You still have the mint flavor. So this is the application of nano as well. So we have this sample prepared in the lab. You will see we call this yellow color nutrients, and they don't dissolve in water. And then for the sample B, we have nanoparticles. And then we don't really see any precipitation. So we can solubilize insoluble compounds in these nanoparticles, and then we can dissolve in water very well. So if you took one drop on the microscope, you will see the very, very uniform structure with very small size. And hopefully we can develop a capsule containing these nanoparticles to go through your GI tract, and then they can eventually, after enter into a small intestine, because of the enzyme over there, they can release the compounds right on the surface of the small intestine lining, so they can be being absorbed, go into your bloodstream. And then another research is the eggs, as I mentioned before. So we discovered a lot of new nanostructures from the egg yolk, and egg white received a lot of attention because we have a lot of proteins in the egg white. So people usually use egg white as only nanomaterials, but we figured out the egg yolk also contains a lot of nanomaterials. And this is an image we took from the egg, from the dairy bar we purchased. And you will see this is a microscope of the nanoparticle we extract and purify from the egg yolk, right from the egg in our own lab. And they're about 40 nanometers in the size. And on the microscope, you can see a lot of very concentrated nanoparticles in the egg yolk. So it's very natural. We can eat them without problem and without any safety concern. So, but it will degrade in your small intestine because of the enzymes over there. So we try to coat this low-density lipoprotein from egg yolk with a polysaccharide. So we make this a very nice cold shell structure like this. And it's very stable in your GI tract. And we can even dry this. So we test all different kinds of carbohydrates that can coat on the surface of the lipoprotein. And this is the dry powder of the nanoparticles. And this scale about 500 nanometers. You see, by coating the lipoprotein with different carbohydrates, we have different nanoparticle structure being developed. And then we also play around with the casein from the milk. So we have casein nanoparticles extract from the milk. Then we have two other polysaccharides. Then we can make this happen by the low pH and the heating, we call Maillard reaction. So this is one of the browning reactions happening in the baking industry. So it's a very, very green chemistry-based reaction. And it's just the reaction between the casein and the polysaccharide. So we make this nice cold shell structure, and we create these chemical bonds so they don't really break down in the GI tract. So we have these casein nanoparticles coated with two layers of polysaccharide. So casein nanoparticle, we have a lot in the milk, and vitamin D actually encapsulated in the casein micelles, being delivered in the milk, fortified in the milk. But the casein micelle in the milk can dramatically break down into amino acid in the small intestine. So it doesn't really have a biological function, although they have natural nanostructures. So we make these nanoparticles, we want to make sure they are stable in your GI tract, so they can deliver nutrients to the small intestine without breaking down. So we talked the electron microscope right here. So these original nanoparticles we made, it's less than 100 nanometer. And we have gastric condition at pH 2, pH 4, intestinal storage, 2 different conditions, and they're super stable. So we make this nanoparticle by creating these chemical bonds, and we can stabilize them in the digestive system. So they can deliver the nutrients all the way to a small intestine where the nutrient will be absorbed. And another research area is the lipid polymer hybrid nanoparticles. We prepare the nanoparticle from fatty acids, from saturated fatty acids, with certain kind of carbohydrate and protein. Here we use another carbohydrate called dextrin. It's a microbial source carbohydrates. It's just a glucose chain. So glucose is a very common food ingredients. And then we have this bovine serum albumin. It has in your steak, in your milk as well. So it's all food ingredients. And we make this Maillard reaction to create this conjugate. And then we use it to prepare these nanoparticles. So we have oil or fat in the center. We coat it with these carbohydrates. And you will see it's very nicely structured, core-shell structured by microscope. And we can dry this nanoparticle by spray dry. Then once we dissolve in water, it reforms the nanoparticles as well. So this is another electron microscope of this lipid polymer nanoparticle prepared in the lab. So this is the liquid form, and this is dry powder. They're all in nanoscale. So we took this nanoparticle, we tested in your small intestine cells. That the same cell type we have in our digestive system. And we measure the cell uptake. So we encapsulate these nutrients, one of the nutrients, into these nanoparticles with a fluorescent property. So we can observe their structures, their uptake. So this is a free nutrients, 3 hours incubation, 12-hour incubation. And this is nanoparticle. So nutrient loaded nanoparticle, you will see the green fluorescent is coming from the nutrients being uptaken by the cells. And this blue is just cell nuclei. So you will see, we will see a lot stronger green fluorescence in the cells after 3 hours and after 12 hours. So we basically prove that this nanoparticle can carry the nutrients to your small intestine and can be uptaken by the small intestine cells very nicely, very effectively. So from my research, this is a very basic overall introduction for my research because of the time limit. But we can always talk more about research going on in my own lab. So from my research, we can conclude at least nanoparticles can be natural. So we have a lot of nanoparticles in the daily food. You never know. Right? From milk, from eggs, from donuts, from bread, almost everywhere in the food industry. So we have to educate people more about this knowledge so they can make wise choices among different food products. And nanotechnology they do offer a lot of benefits, like we see in the slides. They can improve the uptake by the small intestine, and also nanosystem can be tailored for different applications. Of course, under different conditions, we can make different nanoparticles. And this nanotechnology actually growing very rapidly in the food and agriculture area. So the public acceptance is very low, and we do have a lot of health concerns. So we have nanomedicine, right, in the medication area, in the medicine area. They can accept side effects for the medication. If somebody has cancer, say we have to use a nanoparticle to cure or to make the symptom become better, we have to use a nanoparticle that may have some side effects. Then the patient normally, okay, go ahead, we can accept these side effects. But for the food area, we have to be perfectly safe. And it's always regulated by the FDA and the USDA, so Department of Agriculture and also Food and Drug Administration. But the regulations so far is not very good. So they're trying to develop more regulations, come up with more regulations in the future years based on scientific studies. So we need to do a lot of scientific study to evaluate long-term toxicity. Like we talked about with the titanium dioxide, we have it in all different fruits. We can never imagine in all different fruits you can take it. Even in chewing gum, we have nano titanium dioxide. So try to read the label more carefully when next time you are buying food. They may mention titanium dioxide. If they have this, typically they're in nano form. But FDA doesn't really have a clear guidance on how to use them because there's no scientific study. And also we have nano silver. on the packaging already, like lunch boxes in the lid and in the glasses, they have this nano super on the surface, so they can kill the bacteria. And so we have this product, I think in 2004. And after 2 years, it has been recalled by the government, especially by the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency in the US, that recall all the products. You have to stop the selling. But it has been on the market for like 2 or 3 years with the nano super. They claim they can keep the shelf life longer. So if you store the fresh strawberry and blueberry in those kind of package, they have 2 or 3 times longer shelf life under room temperature. It doesn't really go bad. So they can prevent bacteria to grow. They can kill the bacteria, but they need to be in contact with the bacteria, which also makes sense that they can contact with the food. So if those nanomaterials can migrate from packaging to the food, then you will take them, right? You will consume them in your body. They have problems. And the FDA and the EPA doesn't really recognize this problem after 2 years. This product has been on the market already. So we have a lot of safety concerns whenever we're talking about nano in the food area. So we do need a better regulations for the food industry. So this is all about my talk regarding the science in my lab. And so I'm asked to talk about my journey into my research now. So I have my undergraduate in the food science and food engineering in China. And this is because Hunan Agriculture is a southern town of China. We learn about food science. As an undergraduate study, like you are now, you have a much better starting point than me. So this university is not a really good one at that time, like almost 15 years ago. But we learned some basic knowledge as an undergraduate. And then, I think in the summer of 2005, I went to Beijing, the capital of China, and I visited China Agriculture University, basically the top 1 university in agriculture and food science area. And I realized how limited my knowledge was. And I want to study there. So I put all my junior and senior years to study for the exams for the graduate school. So I came to this China Agriculture University for 3 years from 06 to 09 to learn about functional food. So we do a lot of animal studies to treat animals with the food, like diabetic animals or high pressure animals, and to learn about the physiology reaction in the body, in the animal body. And after in Beijing, well, it's the capital of China, so we have a lot of exposure to the international studies. And from there, I know I need to explore more. So I came to the US for my PhD degree. Well, I studied my PhD in the University of Maryland, College Park, for 3.5 years, and I followed my postdoc training in University of Tennessee here. And so I learned about food nanotechnology in 2009, and then all the way to my career now as an assistant professor in the nutritional science in the UConn. And I think currently my research is a perfect combination of everything I learned from my undergraduate and master and PhD. So I applied nanotechnology to treat chronic disease, well, I learned in my master degree. So we learned a lot about diabetes, high pressure, high blood pressure, and also hypertension, and some other chronic diseases. So I used all the nanotechnology I learned in my PhD and postdoc and applied this knowledge to treat or prevent chronic diseases. So this is where I'm standing now, and currently we have 4 PhD students, and 3 of them will be graduating very soon, within 1 year. So I'm really like this culture and the environment here. So that's why I'm saying you have a much better starting point as an undergraduate than I was before. So you have any questions for me? No matter from the science or from my journey, anything's welcome. So no questions?
Anyone? Can you talk a little bit about when you made the transition from China to doing your PhD, did you have kind of a clear understanding of what you wanted to study and what you needed to learn to sort of fill in the gaps?
Not really. I just followed the journey I had. So I think this common confusion of undergraduates. They always, so I have a lot of advisors in nutritional science, and they typically they don't know where to go after graduation. They want to find a job in food industry or in the nutritional science, and we have somebody even go to the engineering part for graduate school. So I think it's always a good idea to enter into the lab. That's what I did in my master. So we learned a lot of science in the research. I just exposure to the international culture over there, and I had to figure out, okay, I want to study in the US to learn more about science. And the nanotechnology came into my mind probably after 1 year as my PhD degree over there. And so I find a perfect niche. I can apply nano into the disease. So we combine it as a nutrition. So we can treat disease with the food nanotechnology as a combination of all my knowledge. So never be afraid of being nowhere now. And we always welcome undergrad students to our labs in our department to learn more about food and nutrition. And once you have an idea about science, once you're doing the science, you will know better. Some people may figure out, okay, I don't like science. I just want to go to industry and make more money. So that's perfectly fine. And some students tell me, okay, I absolutely want to go to graduate school to learn more about science. And I want to stay in academic career as a professor in the future. So it could happen to all kinds of different areas you want to go. But you have to expose yourself to different environments. Yep. Any other questions? So we have a lot of undergraduate students in the labs in our departments. So always feel free to contact me or other professors in our departments, and you're very welcome to join the lab for 1 semester to kind of get in touch with science and to learn more about research, whether you're interested or not. Sometimes you have to rotate in different labs in order to know what is your real interest. But feel free to do so. We are always welcome undergraduate students.
Do you have are there certain characteristics of students that you're looking for? Are you looking for students with particular coursework that they've already completed, or is it really just a motivation and an interest in?
I think motivation is the most important. So we don't really require a coursework for the research, and you learn during the lab, and come into the lab, you're assistant graduate student to do their research project. And once you know better, you learn more, you can become independent, so you can work on your own project. So we have a learning curve in the research as you're going in the lab. And at least we're expecting students to have some basic knowledge in like carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. I think these are all taught in general chemistry or organic chemistry courses, that kind of gen ed course for our majors, and for most of the agriculture-based majors. But if you're an engineering major, you're a physics major, we do have a lot of engineering covered in the lab. So I don't really doubt that you can do a decent job in the lab, especially in my lab, if you have engineering science background. Yep. Any other questions?
This is your chance to ask.
Any questions is fine. Yes?
So I know you're doing a lot of research with coming up with more nano particles and implementing them in like nutritional sciences and stuff like that. But would you say in the future you might be interested in looking into how these different nanoparticles, because a lot of labs all over are making nanocomposites or nanoparticles for implementation, but not a lot of labs are studying how the buildup is actually, how it affects the body at the end of the day.
Yeah, so eventually we will do animal studies. for the long term and short term. So in the animal study, so we prepared the nanoparticles in our lab, and we actually were in the process of incorporating or fortifying this nanoparticle into the food. So we can make bread, we can make cakes. We have a food lab in our department, and we can have that nanoparticles added into one of the ingredients. Then we can make different food or different diet. Then we can feed animals with those diet, and then we can observe the long-term effect. So we primarily do mice and rats. So they're small animals, they're better to control their diet. So we replace their diet with the nanoparticle fortified diet for long term. Then we measure all the physiological conditions in their body to kind of follow a long-term safety study. Yep. So we do have interest in doing that. Probably in the maybe next year we'll be doing animal studies. Currently we're doing a lot of cell study. We use small intestine cells to treat the cells with nanoparticles to see how they can be uptaken by the cells, trying to get a better understanding of your physiological condition that nanoparticle can be exposed to. Yep. Any other questions?
Do you know if there's other areas like in the country doing the same type of research that you're doing?
Oh yeah, it's very common. It's very common, but it's typically in the Department of Food Science. Unfortunately, we don't have food science here. We don't have food science major here. We have food science minor in our department. I'm in charge of food science minor. So in UMass Amherst, just like 1 hour from here, they have a really good food science program, and they have at least 2 professors there doing food nanotechnology. And for the Maryland, for the Tennessee where I studied, they all have faculty members doing nanoscience. It's a pretty common topic in the food science area, but not too many people link this to their nutrition. So this is kind of uniqueness we are now in UConn. So we can apply this nano, and then we can do the animal study to track their nutritious efficacy in the body. No? That's a very good question. So we have Purdue, we have Georgia, we have UIUC, University of Illinois. They all have this nanotechnology in the food science programs.
Do you have colleagues in nutritional science who are doing similar work, or are you sort of the...
I think I'm the only one in the nutritional science area. So all my lab mates, I have one lab mate now who is a faculty in UMass Lowell. It's another campus in the UMass. And I just invited him to give a seminar this semester, probably early in the October, late September. So he gave a seminar about food safety. So he's using nanotechnology as a biosensor to detect the pathogens in the food products. So that's kind of nanosensor in the food science area. And we have another one doing research in the USDA in Maryland. So we have a lot of USDA research facilities over there. And he is doing nanochlorine, like a disinfection of the wash fluid to the fresh produce, to like cantaloupes, strawberries. So they incorporate nanoparticles into the fluid. So they wash the produce or other vegetables and fruits so they can kill the bacteria better, kill food pathogen better. It's kind of the same as food safety. We have a lot of nano in food safety area. For the nutrition, I don't think we have colleagues in this area. Yeah, so that's why we're so unique at UConn. Yes?
I know you spoke a lot about like the applications of possibly adding in nanoparticles to increase nutrition in like diets and that stuff. Do you ever look into possibly removing harmful nanoparticles or like existence of?
Yes, that's a very, very good question. So this is a big concern in the food science area. So we have colleagues in UMass. They invented a technology that can remove titanium dioxide from donuts. So they developed a device that can track nanoparticles, and then you can wash them away from the food products. So you have to detect nanoparticles first, and detection is the major part. Removing is, we can always find a way to remove nanoparticles because they have so unique and unusual properties. So it's easy to find a way. It's not hard to find a way to remove them, but to detect them is not easy. So they find a way they can detect nanoparticles, and then they can remove them. And we have some colleagues in the plant science area doing nanoscience. So for the plant, we need to feed the plant with a lot of vitamin minerals, especially minerals like coppers, irons, aluminums, magnesiums, right? And now the agriculture scientists in New Haven, we have Department of Agriculture in New Haven here, and they do a lot of the metal nanoparticles, the nano copper, nano iron in the solution. So they treat the plants, the small plants, with this nanoparticle solution, and they do observe that a lot of significant uptake by the plant through the roots. The nanoparticle can go all the way from roots to the leaves. But that's a problem. So if you treat tomatoes, and then at the end you have nanoparticle in the tomato as a fruit, eventually, so you want to make sure they are safe to apply to the field to make the plant grow better. But there's some other concerns. So they can accumulate in the stem, in the leaf, and also in the fruit. So we have to find a way to remove them. And also they can cross-contaminate the environment. And they did some animal study, like a food chain. You have ants, you have insects. They can eat the plants, and they can detect nanoparticles in the plant, in the insects. So there's a big chain, a food chain or animal chain. They can go cycling this nanoparticle all the way, everywhere in the environment. So there's a huge concern. So that's why the USDA, the US Department of Agriculture, doesn't really approve any nanoparticle applications for plants. It's a huge concern nowadays. So they evaluate toxicity for this, but it's very hard to track everything. Yeah, that's a good question. Any other questions about nanoscience? Do you have? Good. So any other questions?
For your postdoc, what did you do? Like a little brief summary?
So I did 1 year postdoc in Tennessee. The lab over there is called food biophysics. So I learned a lot of biophysics knowledge, basically the interactions between the protein, carbohydrate, and lipids. And that's why I can combine them to make a complex or hybrid nanoparticles. So I learned their interactions at nanoscale, so how protein can interact with polysaccharide carbohydrates under different conditions. So this is called biophysics. And then at nanoscale, they can complex together to form nanostructures. So I really appreciate my 1 year postdoc in Tennessee, where I learned a lot about interactions, which is a major part of my research now in the lab. So it's always, nanotechnology is always a combination of all different areas. You can do computer science, you can do civil engineering, you can treat water, you can treat wastewater with nanoparticles, you can build a building with nanoparticles inside, like a super strong, like earthquake resistant building can be made from nanoparticles. So we have all kinds of different applications in all different fields.
Did you apply to many postdoc programs? And then, how was the process? Applying to the postdoc?
So as an undergraduate student, you can think about postdoc. So that's a great question. So I contacted at least 30 professors. Probably only 10 in the nano area at that time. Nowadays, more than 50, I think, in the US. So I got an offer from New York about nanomedicine, and I got an offer from Canada about nanoparticles in agriculture, and the one from Tennessee about nanobiophysics. And that's where I studied. I figured out this might be a better fit for my own research in the future. So I did apply for a lot of opportunities. It's always not an easy process. If you are looking for a job, like job hunting process, you have to send out your resumes to like 20, 50 companies until you can get some interviews. It's not an easy process. Yep.
I think our time is up. Anyone else has anything? Thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking the time.